Recording in progress.
Hey, Dr. Rush, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just great. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
How's the weather down in Miami?
It's hot. Where are you?
I'm in New York, so it's cold.
Okay, good. Well, you're always welcome to visit us, especially in December, January, where the weather is lovely.
I appreciate that. I have family, I have parents down in Palm City, and then
Okay, no, seriously,
Oh, yeah.
seriously, come by,
Yeah.
We have a lot of, academic partnerships with a number of software companies. So, for instance, like Wix, for instance, I've been for many years consulting with those folks, and then we talked about an academic partnership where they used to come down physically, and then now they're doing it remotely, but they basically, it's a way for them to promote, and also our students get upgraded for the semester. They get upgraded for their business plan, so they get their own domain names, because what our students are now doing is they're basically for their project being AI Gen consultants for businesses. So we've done that, and we just did something yesterday with a company called Fastbots.ai in England. So basically what he's doing is that basically you can train the chatbot on your own data and then hook it to a number of different things. Hook it to your website, hook it to your email, hook it just to a link on its own. So it's kind of interesting. So I'm just telling you that's a real offer coming down.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I think I might take advantage of that.
Yeah, take it anyways.
Cool
that may be also a way for a business model to basically do universities and hang on. So okay, so how can we work, and what do you need on this call?
Well, that's what we were hoping to get from you. So we got we got an inbound request through Lucy, asking more for like kind of AI assistant, voice, conversational AI, and while that's not exactly Lucy's mode, both Lucy and Smart Action work under the banner of a larger company called Capacity. So that's why I wanted to introduce you to my account executive, Chris. He works more on the Smart Action conversational AI side.
Yeah, it seems like that's more what we need,
Yeah, so wanted to bring him in. Like I said, he's my account executive. He's worked, I think, at Smart Action for close to the same amount of time I've been here, so very knowledgeable on the product.
And so let me get an overview here. So where it is Lucy and the Smart Action, they're in it's a different company, they're the same company? How is this?
Well, so now
they were separate.
We were two separate companies. Recently, we were both acquired by a larger company called Capacity, who's kind of consolidating a lot of different customer service AI tools. Lucy's more knowledge management, basically kind of like not like an AI assistant, but more of a research and data centralization tool where you can use AI to look up anything from like keywords to asking it specific questions, and it can sift through mountains of internal documents.
Your Lucy
projects. Lucy can do that, yeah, and basically give you a summarized answer while also providing the exact like page that the answer is listed on in like mountains of data. So it's good for like HR, internal research, stuff like that. Whereas we, or the originally Smart Action, now Capacity conversational AI tool, kind of acts as a we can provide customer service automation and like just basically any inbound or outbound calling automation, as well as chat functions, SMS, email.
So yours, let me get it straight so I can see. It may be different products for different type of application. Your Lucy, you're gearing it. Was it always called Lucy? No.
So I wouldn't be able to, or Chris, you might be able to.
I can clarify.
Yeah.
Hi, Dr. Rush. I'm Christopher Lee,
Great to meet you.
You can call me Sarah. It's fine.
Sarah, okay, thank you. So let me just clarify a couple things. So first is capacity is about 9 companies in one, right? And so that what they've gone out and done is bought particular companies that specialize in certain areas when it comes to automation and AI. As an example, Lucy, since we're talking about that, where they specialize is with a company or an organization like University of Miami, I would imagine that you have data living in a number of different sources, correct? In other words, there's not a centralized place to find all of the answers if somebody had questions, correct?
Sure.
So what Lucy does is, let's say you were building a knowledge base bot, either customer facing or student facing or internal. The challenge is still that information lives in hundreds of different places, correct? Okay. So what Lucy does is allows information to live wherever it is currently. And if you ask it a question, like if you say, what's the process for enrollment?
Right, right. Or how do I get a parking ticket?
Exactly.
Parking.
Right. How do I get a parking permit? Right.
Right.
That could live in 5 different places. So rather than trying to centralize all that information, because a lot of big organizations, the challenge is trying to put all that information into one particular spot where it can be found and accessed. What Lucy does is it almost acts like a search engine, but it's better, where it basically goes out and finds the information wherever it lives. It could be a PDF, it could be a blog, it could be in an internal database, whatever it is, wherever you want it to access. It'll go and find that information, pull it, and centralize it to that particular person. So if it says, how do I get a parking permit? It will not only give you the answer, but it will also pull up the supporting documents to support that answer. So as an example, one of Lucy's big clients is Pepsi Cola. They have data living in about 800 different spots within their organization. There's no way that you're going to centralize that into a knowledge base. That's the challenge. And so what they did was they bought Lucy's knowledge base platform, and now they can build a bot and keep all their information wherever it lives, even if they're updating living files like PDFs or SharePoint documents. So as they make updates, it doesn't matter. You don't have to re-upload it. It can go out and find that information and deliver it to, in your case,
so this can be internal or external. So this can be on University of Miami's website, where they just click, how do I get a parking permit? And then they get the response. Or it can be internal. What is our policies on...
what are our policies for...
human resources and insurance.
Things like that. Yep. So, and you can see that there's a number of different applications you can have, because you have so many different departments, so many different needs.
Right, for the School of Business or the School of Law, or just generic, right? For development or whatever. Okay.
What Lucy allows is that, because all that, the challenge with most knowledge bases is that you have all the information available. People just don't know where to find it. And trying to get everybody to basically centralize all that information would be a task in itself. Then the challenge is, well, you probably have information that's constantly being updated, right? Like parking rates change, things like that. Processes change. What Lucy says is, look, just let everything live where it's supposed to live. You tell us where all that stuff is, and we'll go out and basically find it for you. Okay,
so it crawls the databases, and then it basically and what about all those PDFs and things? Somebody manually has to put that in, or you just say where it's stored?
It just says where it locates. You just tell us where it's supposed to be. Just like how a search engine works. You tell us where you want us to go look and scrub, and we'll find that information. But unlike even like a Google, where Google just gives you links to information, right, which is great, Lucy will go one step further, and it'll give you the answer. So if you say, how much is tuition this year? As an example, you'll know, and it'll say it's
Right, and next semester, where are you planning? What is it? Okay, I got it.
Exactly.
So
and
basically,
it'll then also bring the supporting documents and say, here's where I found that answer.
So I query. So the end user queries it, just like in a chat GPT prompt.
Yes, and that's now, and then unlike ChatGPT, where the problem with ChatGPT is it doesn't have any guardrails, right? So you could actually feed it false information, and it'll use that as information, right? An example is somebody purposely put out there that you're supposed to add glue, literally.
Right. I saw that. It won't hallucinate as much. Yeah.
Right. So what Lucy does is it'll have guardrails so that you know it's only accessing information you want it to. Number one. Number two is it's only accessing information that is reputable, and that's under your control.
And this is it. And the difference then that's the Lucy plan of what? You have business and then you have enterprise?
Yeah, so even though we are 9 different companies, we don't have like separate products that you have to buy. And so it's basically the capacities, knowledge base, power. So if you said, look, we're trying to build a knowledge base. The problem is we have data all over the place, and we don't know where to start of how to consolidate that. And then what if something changes? That department then has to upload it, or somebody has to go and find that new document, re-upload it. Right? That's a huge task. So big organizations like yourselves need products like Lucy so that you don't have to, number one, centralize information, but also, more importantly, you don't have to worry about documents being updated in that central spot. So that's knowledge base web chat.
So it's web chat, so it's not conversational, or it will be.
It's conversational in terms of what.
No, but I mean voice. I mean in voice.
Voice is now separate, right? So now voice is another of our products where conversationally, if people are calling in and saying, "Hey, what's your tuition?"
Okay.
And we program it what to say.
I saw that, but I'm just talking about the first part where, let's say, for the back end for the University of Miami, they go onto their website and they say, "What is the tuition?" Rather than calling in, they're just going to be typing in what is the university. Well, now whether you use Gemini or any of the other ones, you can click on the microphone and you can speak to it. You can do a voice to text and it comes back with voice. You have that part in not the calling part of the answering machine, but rather, do you have that enabled yet? The voice. That's what I'm talking about.
I think we'll talk into it and then it's texting. That's a
voice to text. Like I'm busy, right? I'm busy right now. I'm taking a walk. I don't have my hands free. I don't have the chat. Just like you would do anyways,
Like how we text, like if you're driving, you can just speak in your phone and then it's texting and then it's sending.
Right, and then
that's something that let me check on that one.
Because people are upgrading to that. The chat GPTs and the Geminis in the world basically upgraded to that, and that's now just an API. It may be down in your roadmap where people, they just have to connect to the...
Yeah, so there's a voice capability within chat, like in other words, it's like a little microphone, just like when we text, right?
Right, when you text that you're busy driving, you're not going to be, pulled over. The same thing that I'm going to ask, what is the tuition, or give me, in how long do I have to be an employee to get tuition remission or something like that.
Yep. Okay.
You can find out. It's not available now, right, Chris?
I'm not 100%
sure, but that's one of my questions. That's one of the things that we're doing. I can let you know that I wear very different hats, right? I'm a professor with my students, right? I'm in business technology and health informatics. I'm also an advisor to the University of Miami and their CIO, and we even got a chief AI officer, basically, and saying, what do we need, basically being on the road. I'm also a mentor, and I'm also an advisor and consultant to many of the tech companies for a number of years. The CEO and their branches are where they're going. So I wear a number of different hats. At the University of Miami, for instance, I'm recommending or setting them up and say, hey, this is a good product for you guys, because they're overwhelmed, right? They're just having to do, like anyone else. I don't have time to do all these investigations, right? This is part of my research. I write a number of articles. I'm also press where I can do, a number of things. So I give them basically, they look for me for guidance. Also, the city of Coral Gables. I don't know if you've heard of Coral Gables, where that's where the University of Miami is, and that city has become what they call a, quote, smart city. So I'm the advisor to that city itself in saying, hey, what kind of products do we need to get to make us more relevant for our community of our city? So, for instance, I go with the chief innovation officer. I go to CES with him and his group, even to figure out, even at that show, what kinds of things they need, and basically train. I've trained also, during COVID, the small business, the businesses in Coral Gables as well. So I wear a number of different hats there, plus I'm an advisor to a number of companies. And then in the student area, we're doing things where I try to educate now our students. I don't care if whoever you are, whatever major you are, you're going to have to learn how to work with a lot of these Gen AI apps. If you don't know how to work with them, you're not going to have a job, right? You're going to have to be able to do it, but have to see where your human intelligence is. So it's basically, we're looking at it as, for educational purposes, basically AI everywhere, and being able, when we graduate our students, that they will be comfortable being in that marketplace, and they're also be able, even in companies, to think about what everybody wants to do is train on their own data, right? That's basically it. So okay, so I understand. So now I understand your, because I just happened to come across it and see on that one. So that is, and this original company was called Lucy all along, or was called something else?
Called Lucy, correct.
Okay.
And it was designed around big organizations like yourselves, where their main challenge was, look, we need a knowledge base, but it's practically impossible to try to upkeep.
Okay, and so let's say our human policy, let's say you have to work for the university for a year before you get tuition remission, and now all of a sudden it's only 6 months. So if that policy changes, so who in the organization needs to train that system to change that?
Because basically what's happening is, if you say, look, here's the document that or pieces of information that you need to look at when that question is asked.
Right.
Then basically that path is still there, that API is still there. Mm-hmm. It goes back and then reads the document again and goes, oh, it's not 12 months, it's 8 months or 6 months.
Right.
And so if somebody's just updating it, that's all that needs to be done.
Okay, somebody's updating in the path and they don't have to, and if it's within that path, it'll be reading it. It won't be.
It's just like as if a human being said, look, you trained to, my job was only to answer that question. Right. And you go, whenever somebody asks you that question, you got to look at that document.
Right. And when that document changes, you'll
go back and read it. Right. Okay. Just like if you update a website, like, hey, what's your mailing address? Obviously, it's not going to change, but let's say you switch to a PO box.
Right. No, it's the same thing. You moved. Right. Yep. And you're no longer even in a physical location. You're virtual.
Right. Yeah. So any of that stuff, and that's why Lucy's so popular with very large organizations.
So it's an enterprise. You're more of an enterprise product. Okay.
That, in that case, yes. If you're saying, look, University of Miami or any organization that size wants to build a knowledge base.
Right, or the city of, and another one is the city of Coral Gables. They say, we're basically, we pay I live in that city too, and we pay the highest taxes because we get all these services. And one of the things is one of the pains is everything needs a permit. To paint your house even, you need to get a permit. So everyone. So what is the policy to fill it out? Yeah, I got it.
And websites like that have tons of information. You just don't know where to get it.
Yeah, right.
You might have a knowledge base that's going to pull up tons of stuff you have to scour through versus something that says, how do I get a permit to paint my condo?
Right.
Or let's say somebody's thinking of moving there, and they're going to say, what's the highest tax rate, or what's the area that has the best tax rates, subset, right? And it'll pull it up. Yeah. So that's all stuff that those types of knowledge bases are challenged with when you don't have a product like Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, yes. So when it comes to things like knowledge base, yes, Lucy is definitely something where if you've got information living in multiple places, hundreds of times, that's definitely why people use it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
And then regarding the voice side, sounds like right now you're more thinking of trying to integrate voice into.
Well, there's a number of, as I say, there's a number of different constituencies, and now I understand Lucy better on that of voice, scanning. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, traditionally with voice for us, that's more like self-service type stuff, Sarah. That's more like somebody calling in and saying, I need to, I want to make a tuition payment, right? Rather than a human being trying to process that, you have a virtual agent that goes, yep, I got it. Give me your credit card number, or, let me access this and tell you what your balance is, things like that, right? Or if there's a collections notice, or someone wants to know, like, hey, I want to book a tour of the school, things like that. That's all stuff that voice can help out with in terms of self-service. All the things that are generally handled on a first phone call that maybe take 3 to 5 minutes.
Your virtual agent calling, whatever. I'm your virtual agent. Can I help you? Right. Yep, and then if 100%. I can't answer it, let me pass you on to someone else.
100%. Yep. That's without a doubt. Exactly.
And that product is called what?
That's just a voice virtual agent.
And that's not part of Lucy. That's something else.
Correct. It's all part of capacity. So,
okay.
Yeah. So the only reason why we're saying Lucy is because right now, because there's been so many acquisitions that we have different, lead sources, if you will, and so
okay.
Under Lucy, so we wanted just to kind of separate, but really it's all under the capacity umbrella.
So do you have like a slide or something of what capacity has?
Absolutely.
And then also that you can send me something.
Yeah, so let me just show you this real quick.
So you can see, because when you were asking me, I have so many different constituencies, with so many different issues.
I'm going to show you this here. I won't do it in the slideshow fashion.
Yeah, but it's fine.
So you can see that
now this is better for me, even the slideshow, to see capacity. So it has dem social, which is what?
So they're more on the social media side. LumenVox is on the voice optimization. Same with Smart Action.
Okay.
Textel is our texting platform. And then Seraproc is things like voice recognition technology. And then Lucy is what we already talked about in terms of like knowledge base.
Mm-hmm. And support automation platform. That's just your tagline or what?
If you just said what is capacity, we would say it's
that's your tagline. That's your
tagline. Because it's omni-channel. And so what we've done is that there's some companies like, let's say as an example, Smart Action, right? Mm-hmm. They are more of a product. They offer virtual agents for voice. Mm-hmm. But someone like LumenVox, as an example, more kind of optimizes virtual agents. So we're going to use the technology inside LumenVox to make this even stronger. Okay? Or, hey, Capacity had a knowledge base as their core product, but now with Lucy, we're more appealing to large enterprises because of that challenge we talked about. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And then you're going, for branding purposes, you're going to put it all under Capacity.
It's all just going to be something that just looks like this.
Okay.
Just,
okay.
Hey,
all right. Okay.
Do you have a knowledge base? Yes. Forget about what empowers it. We know. Mm-hmm. Look, one of the challenges is trying to centralize data. We don't have that problem, right? Or hey, one of the things about voice virtual agents is sometimes they can't hear what the person is saying or they don't understand. We've got technologies behind it to basically ensure that
a voice to text. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yes. Yeah, and voice to text is definitely something that we have. I want to see if it can be integrated into like a chat platform where someone can say, what's your tuition? And then through the chat, it hears it and goes, oh, I know what that person said. Here's the
Right,
answer.
like it's able to do that in
Just like a
chat.
Siri type
Yeah,
scenario,
no, or
right?
even a
Like
chat GPT, even now with they
you
do the
got it.
voice. Okay, so
And
where is
so
this
just kind of
company? Where is this capacity?
we're all over the place, but Capacity itself is headquartered in St. Louis.
Okay, so this is St. Louis and originally this company was what? Just basically it's a acquiring company, or this they also had a product
They
that went.
were, yeah, it's a great question. So Capacity itself was originally um, omni-channel still, but usually what happens is when you try to be an all-in-one and you're developing your own product, you're not really good in any one
Yeah,
particular area.
so
Really
they originally
specialize.
okay, so they originally
So
were trying to get into this, and then they said, let's get the best of the breed on each of these. Is that?
I love it exactly. Yeah, so they were really good at knowledge base
Mm-hmm.
and chat and email automation, and then they started going, well, we kind of there's some product gaps basically is what happened. So they instead of trying to rebuild it or build it on their own, they went out and like bought a company like Smart Action for voice, and that was really good in specializing in voice. And now they've integrated that into the platform. It's kind of how that works.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, you can see we're across all communication channels, depending on what you're trying to work within. And then naturally, we sit in the middle, powering all of those. We can even help out live agent support. So if you have call center agents, we even have like agent assist, or we have things like that internal.
So you have live chat too. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But more importantly, like let's say you and I are talking and you ask me a question and I don't know it, I can ping an internal knowledge base and say, oh, here's the answer, right? Or better yet, even with Live Agent Assist, it might hear you and then say, this is what Sarah's asking about. You might want to say this or this, okay? And then, of course, we are an overlay onto existing tech stacks. So that's kind of the differentiator. We're not asking you to rip and replace, and we're not trying to sell you something like if Ring Central has automation,
or nice,
they might want eventually to get your phone business or your call center business, right? We're not trying to do that. We're just an overlay. Okay? And again, just real quick, really all we're trying to do is reduce live agent or live support need for handling the redundant, meaning we're not trying to fire a bunch of people. We're just trying to take the redundant stuff away from them.
Right.
Okay?
That's the line for all those call agents that are worried about getting replaced.
Yeah, because everybody's always concerned about, well, is it going to replace it? Well, it'll replace things if you can only answer, scheduling questions. Yes, you might get replaced. But
okay,
really
okay, got it. Yeah, I got it. Okay, I got it.
Okay, does that make better sense?
Yeah, if you could send me those slides, it'd help. If you don't mind,
sure.
Right.
And then just kind of common use cases, which you probably already know, Sarah, is, again, more kind of the redundant stuff. We want to basically work on, look, the stuff that basically no one in their, deep secrets really wants to do, the redundant stuff, right? The stuff that's a time waste.
So let me ask you a question, Chris. So for instance, under sales, I see that you have the Salesforce logo. So you work with Salesforce? Is that the idea? You work on top of
integration with Salesforce, correct. In other words, if you said, look, in sales, we want someone to be able to do an outreach and try to book an appointment or follow up with somebody that inquired, as an example, we might make an outbound call to that person and say, is this Dr. Rush? You say yes. Then I query Salesforce to ensure, like, Sarah, do you mind validating your zip code just to make sure I've got the correct, Dr. Rush.
So on your sales, because Salesforce is doing similar things that they're trying to work with there, saying we're going to work with your agents, and your agents will then have scripts. So how are you different than what Salesforce is actually trying to do in the future? You're overlapping on that?
It's the same deal. Like, we can work with scripts, things like that. But again, the difference is this: Salesforce originally was what? A CRM.
Yes, right. Really I know, right.
And so when you try to get too far out of it, in other words, each university really kind of has specialties of what they're really good at, like and so it's one of those things where you can't be good at everything, right? And
so you're taking the niches.
Salesforce is good. One of those things, if they're like, oh, we're going to do agent assist. Well, aren't you a CRM company, or do you have a telephony background where you understand really what you're trying to optimize with the agent?
All right, got
it. More importantly, how do you know what that agent really needs until you've basically reduced the redundant stuff away from them?
Okay, got it.
Okay, so that's kind of one of those things that when we start talking about agent assist and how do we optimize employees, the first thing I always say is, look, have you basically taken away their busy work? And if the answer is no, well, how do you know what they really need help with until you can get rid of their noise? Right? So that's kind of one of those things where we want to start with square one of, like, if you don't have a self-service automation platform yet, trying to figure out what they really need help with is kind of a bigger challenge, right? So if you're trying to help a student and you're like, well, let me first get rid of some of the subterfuge and then focus on what you're really challenged with.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Okay,
so
I got the idea. Yeah, this is enlightening just for you, for me to see that. Okay, so I see that. So you basically are competing with a number. So if I asked you who your competitors are, you have a lot of different competitors, and depending on that certain space or those that are more generic, right? In between.
Yes, because the situation which you already are aware of is that the reason why there's a bunch of companies going into AI. First of all, AI is a totally broad term. It's like saying food, right? But everybody knows that there's money to be had in automation right now. So everybody, regardless of what your core business is trying to get a piece of it, right? It's kind of like in 2006 when real estate was super popular everywhere. You saw that everyone wanted to be part of the real estate business. Like they either sold homes on the side, they did remodels, mortgages, but they weren't necessarily good at it. They
basically it goes in those trends. Okay, I got your idea. So some of these even that you have below it, with your integration are your integrators that you're using, and some of these are you work with, and they're also can be your own competitors. Yeah, because they're moving in.
Absolutely, because they all offer it, right?
Right.
We have partnerships with some of them, but they also have partnerships with 3 other companies, right?
Right. No, I understand.
Compete. So, yeah, it's a tough thing, but again, it depends on what you are looking for and the type of partnership.
Right. Okay. Now I see what you do.
Do you want a partnership where they kind of offer it as sort of a subset of their product base, or do you want a company that's all they do?
Well, or it's a combination, and then you can see. Exactly. Also, you can see who will survive, and then you never know with you folks who, this capacity can exit too, and someone can purchase it. So you never know. Everybody, you may be. Yeah, you understand. So it's nothing is set in stone. Nobody knows the future, and but that this is not, in my opinion, this is not just a fad. So this is going to be coming.
It's definitely not a fad, and that's why companies are jumping on board.
Right, and everybody needs to do it. And then when you see it, and then you have then you have even the Microsofts and the ChatGPTs and the Copilot. Yeah. Okay.
But the good news is that there are a ton of entry points. In other words, automation could be things that we don't even specialize in. Like you could automate processes internally that we have nothing to do with, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of one of those things where we've picked a particular area that we feel like is very solid because again,
and you would say among these, and then when you're saying here, chat, web, email, SMS, voice, and social, those are basically individual companies that are doing, of those companies that or acquired or part of it, for instance, chat, web, and email, they go through all of your companies when you have those? Like you have the SMS for...
This is just our platform. So forget about all the companies that I showed you.
Right, okay.
This is just our platform. So however you want to engage, or importantly, like however students or parents want to engage with your organization, we can supply a way for them to get in and talk to you. Okay. And in some cases, we can automate that process where the person that's inquiring will get what they're looking for and not even involve a live agent or a live employee, thus allowing that employee to basically work on the things that you want them to.
Okay. So your inbound calls, outbound calls, or both?
Both.
You're both. Your outbound calls as well.
Yep. We can, as an example, we can work within Salesforce. So let's say you get applicants to basically fill out information that they only get halfway through it, and you want something to be able to outreach and say, hey, we see that you filled out an application and weren't able to complete it all. Do you want to continue that right now?
And then you use an invoice. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's like
so that's all stuff that we can help with.
Okay. All right.
Does that make better sense?
Yes. So send me, Chris, if you don't mind, send me those slides. It helps me a lot. Yeah, in terms of overview.
Is we'll send you the recording of this call.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And then this way you can kind of
And if you can send me those slides too, so I can.
Of course.
Yeah. So send me those slides that I have an idea, and then because in terms of, we just got to figure out in terms of what we want demos on. In terms, I think that Lucy, I can see it, is being very useful for internal and external. Right.
If I had to guess, Sarah, Lucy is in a knowledge base web chat is definitely the first place I would probably look.
Right.
For me, I would think that's probably the lowest hanging fruit.
Right.
Is some type of internal and external knowledge base.
Right.
And then the ability to leave information wherever it is today and have us go out and find it for whoever's inquiring.
And then if you can show us, maybe even take an example of the University of Miami, so can you...
happy to do like a demo on that. So if you said, listen, using the Lucy product, we want to see a knowledge base, example using University of Miami.
Yeah, right. And can you search the University of Miami without permissions? Can you scrape that?
Public website, as an example, if you said, listen, I want to see an example of it, finding information off of our public website, which is public information, so there's no laws being broken, it's public information.
Yeah, right.
And then us going like, hey,
that may be a good that may be a good start. Even take it. Right, like you can, know where we are, right? Miami.edu.
I'll show you that. It's a really powerful platform.
Right, like and then you could also look at it for the city of Coral Gables as well. Those are the two that would be as a possibility of demoing. And then what's your pricing structure?
It's basically a usage-based platform. We can talk about that. But but
it's usage. Okay.
You know how software works. It's always a subscription.
No, but that's right.
Yeah. So.
And in terms of doing that, then for our users, then who would be using it, you use it as a service too, or you're expecting you sell this and have you have the end users.
If we built a knowledge base, it would be based on like interactions. In other words, you'd get charged based on the number of responses. So forget about the inquiries that are coming in. So you could have 10,000 questions, but obviously it's based on how many responses are needed to handle that. Right? And then you'd pay based on that.
Based on the responses.
Subscriptions are like, usually there's a platform fee to have access to it, to keep those APIs current, so it knows, hey, if that path to this particular piece of information has changed, we're basically going in and making sure that it knows where to go find that information.
And what language models are you using? Or is each product a different one, or you get to
They're
choose?
all different, but sometimes we use our own internal large language model. We can use your own data to learn off of it, or a combination. So,
but you're not using like OpenAI or.
We can again. Keep in mind that you want to have guardrails up. So you want to make sure that, like, if you want us to access certain websites for information, and you deem, hey, that's reputable, great, we'll do it. You just don't want it going off and trying to figure it out.
Yeah, but you can do that with the OpenAI and just give them those guardrails. Okay, but you don't have I don't have, as an end user, I don't have a choice where I check off I want to have Claude or I want to have OpenAI or.
You build this thing how you want. In other words, if you want it to have access to particular language models or data sources, yes, it can definitely do that.
Which ones can do that?
Yes, because remember, Lucy is not. It's basically just more or less a crawler, and it's a scrubbing technology that's basically saying, you've given me these 1,000 data sources. Every time something is asked of me, I'm going to utilize each one of those and go out and figure out how to formulate the most accurate answer.
So Lucy does not do when you're saying scraping, and now if I want it to be like an attendant, like when I looked at, I guess, the free version, it was like a answering machine, right? When it would say, right, so that's the voice part. And this other model, or what did you call it, Smart Action, how would you distinguish Smart Action versus the Lucy products?
Action is mainly the voice part, the voice side, versus Lucy's more of a web chat.
Okay, and voice in real time. Pardon?
Yeah, so Lucy is more knowledge-based web chat, like on your computer, within Microsoft Teams, as an example, you wanted to embed an internal chatbot that somebody can query, and it knows to spit out those answers. That's Lucy's product. More like knowledge-based web chat. Smart Action would be more like, hey, instead of live agent customer service teams handling people calling in, you have a virtual agent team that tries to deflect some of that traffic.
It's kind of my first line.
Yep.
Of defense.
100%.
My virtual agent. So Lucy's not 100%. A virtual agent?
It can be. It definitely can be. It can, you can basically say, like, I want to make a payment, and then it goes, okay, great, or what's my balance?
Lucy can. And the Smart Action, what would it add onto it?
Smart Action would be more voice.
Okay.
That's just separating
real
the
time.
two. It's somebody that says, I want to call in to University of Miami. Then you're talking about Smart Actions technology.
Okay, so if so we have a development office, right? We're a private university, so we get a lot of funds from our donors. So we have a group of physical people, even professors and others, that go out and, let's say, Noah was our graduate and now he's quite successful, he's been CEO. We reach out to him, right? And then we say, and then we even give him a call, and Noah's not there, and hey, give us a call back. What we thought about is, like, the first line would be when Noah calls in again, then our virtual agent would respond.
That's exactly it.
And then 100%. After a while, it says, okay, Noah, we're going to refer you to Christopher Lee. He'll talk about how great the university is now doing since you've graduated.
As soon as it's gotten to a point where, because in my opinion, I mean, again, outside of the redundant, there's always going to be human beings that are necessary.
Yes,
but,
right.
But for certain things, it's better to have automation. Like when you cross a bridge, remember, like, having to pay people and stop and how much traffic
you don't have to convince me on that, right?
Yeah.
It's
So
just where it fits, right? All of a sudden, you just want even to chat.
Got it.
Just give me the answer. I don't want to wait on hold. Right.
100%. Yes. So
Right.
in that instance, yes. So making callback, Noah calls in and
Right.
goes, "Hey, I missed a call," and they go, "Yeah, Noah, this is why we called
Okay,
you."
and then you will also, then I can, and let's say I can call my virtual agent, then can call Noah, and then when Noah's there, he basically can can converse with Noah as well.
It can
Call.
converse. It could verify, is this, am I speaking with Noah?
Right.
It could even go so far as someone saying, "No, this isn't Noah, but let me go get him."
Right.
Right. And then the virtual agent waiting, and then someone saying, "Hi, this is Noah," and then I go, "Hey, Noah, just to make sure it's you, what's your zip code?"
Right.
And then going back into the system, going, "Great, here's why we called Noah," and then
Okay.
or and then passing when necessary. So yeah, that's 100%. Yes, that's everything we can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So I'll send you this recording.
Okay.
I'll send you just this mini deck,
Right.
Sarah, and then naturally, what we'd love to do is maybe I think the first thing would be to see if you were interested in seeing like a Lucy demo using maybe like either University of Miami's website or Cape Coral's website.
Yeah.
We'd love
Coral
to do
Gables,
something
yeah.
like that. Coral Gables, excuse me.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd love
Yeah.
to do that.
Okay. Let's do that, and then we can work that through. It was
Perfect.
It was enlightening for me to get a feel for that more. Okay.
See, you've done plenty of research already.
Yeah,
so
well, that's my job, part of it. So that's why people are always asking me about it. You know what I mean? And it's just for the end consumer. I'm always thinking about. I can't help myself, but I'm always thinking about. The only problem here is that since you have all those products, it's confusing for people to figure out where you fit in versus if it were just a Lucy, then people can see, hey, you fit into that spot, but you're trying to fit in for the entire spectrum. It becomes more complicated for you to explain that and where it fits in. Yeah.
And that's why we say we don't want to try to boil the ocean, even though we can offer so many different things. Let's just pick like one.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying for your end, where you're saying later on, we're not going to do Lucy, we're not going to, different. It's all capacity. That's the problem. Is it becomes. People think of it as too generic. There is some process, just like you say, of just having that Lucy and just doing that brand of Lucy, where then you can say, hey, this is what you guys do well.
In the future, it might be something like, look, this is the capacity knowledge base.
Yeah, right. But I'm just saying, but that becomes where. And do you guys present anywhere? Do you go to any shows? Or you do it? So what shows are coming up that you're going to?
Well, we've just got doing a bunch of partner shows. So we work with technical advisors, and so we've done a series of those. Upcoming that are client facing, I'd have to look at our
client facing or just even okay. So so when you say technical advisor. So you guys are you're a private equity firm, or what are you, that capacity?
We're an LLC, but so when I say partners, I'm talking about like resellers, basically, or...
So you're in the reseller market, and then they can rebrand you, too? They can white label you?
There's companies that do that, yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So you're in those, for channels, so basically you see yourself as in the reseller market?
Yeah, there's two different kinds. There's OEM, right, where it's white labeled, like Ring Central has part of our texting platform that they just call it Ring Central Texting, but it's really powered by us.
Okay.
Then there's resellers. Well, let's say it's a technical advisor.
Yeah, I know what the reseller.
Right, and then there's that relationship, and then of course there's this one where it's direct.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have the three markets.
And we'll work with either. You eventually said, hey, Chris, we want you to talk with and work with our.
Are you familiar with? Are you familiar with IT Expo? TMC.
Yeah, we are.
And then you.
I'm not sure if we're going to that. We have gone.
In the past.
Yeah, we've gone to things like LeadsCon in Vegas, all that.
The IT Expo. We're in Fort Lauderdale. I'm speaking at that. I work with the owner of that show.
Okay.
I do a number of, and I could see you doing well with that group because there are also a number of resellers. They're also into Ring Central is one of all those. A number of those folks are.
When is that coming up?
That's in February in Fort Lauderdale. So when Noah was thinking about an area to go to, it's not bad. Where are you based, Chris?
I'm in California.
Okay, where?
North of San Francisco.
Where?
Marin County.
Okay.
Place called San Rafael.
Yeah, I know San Rafael well.
Yeah.
I used to teach at USF and also UC San Francisco. Yeah, and also Southern. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
yeah. So okay. So and where were you before this, Chris? What did you do?
Well, before Smart Action,
Yeah.
I was at a company called LiveVox, which was bought by Nice.
Okay, Nice. Okay, I work with Nice too. Yeah. Okay. So.
Yeah, I've been in the UCAS and CCAS and
Okay.
civic space since 2008. So companies
Wow.
like
Yeah. Okay. So
Ring
that's how you know
Central,
even IT
Five9.
Expo. Even IT
Yeah.
Expo is in that space too.
Well,
Yeah.
and what you find, which you probably already know, is that all of us kind of have worked at all these companies, so we kind of know each other.
Yeah,
about
right,
different
right,
companies.
right.
Yeah, that's kind of how it works. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It's a
you
small
didn't
world.
go on. You didn't go on to Nice with them. You moved on.
Correct. Yeah. When Nice purchased LiveVox,
And
I
LiveVox was
decided-
based where?
They were in. Where were they headquartered? I believe they were headquartered in
They weren't an
I wanna say
Israeli
it was,
company,
like,
were they?
Baltimore. No, they were not.
Okay, but Nice is okay.
Yeah, I have to remember where the founder was from.
Yeah,
St.
but,
Louis.
Okay, but it doesn't matter.
basically-
Okay, LiveVox. Okay, so
But-
you've been in that space and then you went from there. Okay.
Yeah, it was only because at the time, LiveVox was more call center focused, so it was Nice. While they had AI, that wasn't their sole.
I know. Well, that now everybody's
right?
jumping
so I
on.
went to a company, Smart Action, which that's what they did AI because, like you said, it's not going anywhere, right? And so this is the next.
And Smart Action was where? Where's that? Where's that based?
They were in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how
And
long
so-
were they around before they got acquired?
22 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So they started off as like a consulting firm in AI, and then they kind of eventually became productized. So they were just more of a consulting firm of like, look, this is AI, and then they kind of
Jumped on it.
sort of fell into a product of like, we should build our own bot,
Right.
and then that's kind of how that worked. Yeah.
Okay. This is kind of to get the background of it. All right. Okay, so we'll talk again, and then if you can show me kind of an ideas of maybe, like you said, I'll try to figure out, I guess, to figure out what the scenarios for that Smart Action and Lucy for, the business and enterprise. And I imagine the business, you have like a business and then you have an enterprise kind of version. Is that how they work? Or the same product? They're the same products, but you just get, it's more users or something, more seats or?
Because that's really where it comes into play. Is it's an enterprise platform, but a mid-market company of 100 employees can get it, right?
Okay.
Where you would benefit is your volume is going to be 100 times bigger than somebody that has 100 employees.
Yeah,
right?
no, I understand, but it just.
So the pricing obviously is more advantageous.
Yeah.
That's kind of how that works.
Okay.
I mean, you get it.
All right.
So let me send you.
Yeah.
Please, this recording, or send you that kind of mini deck we just went
Right,
through to have a reference point.
Yeah.
And then we'll follow up with you to see, like, hey, do you want to see? My only action item right now is just to check on the voice to text side.
Yeah, the voice, right.
Chat platform, okay?
Yeah, on all of your products, yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And then I will then see, your feedback, and if you think, hey, I'd still like to see, a demo of the.
Right, I got it, and then we can use it. Okay, now
Excellent.
I got it.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
Okay,
Well,
nice
Sarah,
to meet you both. Great to
Thank
meet
so
you
much for
both.
your time.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Ciao.